Training breaks tissue down. That is not an unfortunate side effect of exercise. It is the mechanism that makes adaptation possible. Every challenging workout creates microscopic damage to muscle fibers. It disrupts cellular structures, depletes stored energy, stresses connective tissue, and signals to the body that the current level of capacity is no longer sufficient. The workout itself does not make you stronger. Recovery does. Recovery is the process through which the body repairs damaged tissue, restores energy reserves, and, if the conditions are right, builds back slightly more than before. That rebuilding process is driven by time, energy availability, and nutrients. Protein sits at the center of all of it. After training, muscle protein breakdown increases. At the same time, muscle tissue becomes more sensitive to amino acids, meaning the machinery responsible for rebuilding is more responsive than usual. The body is primed to repair and adapt, but that outcome is not automatic. It depends on whether the raw materials show up in sufficient amounts. Protein provides those raw materials. Dietary protein supplies amino acids, which are used to repair damaged muscle fibers, rebuild structural components, and support the signaling processes that drive adaptation. Without enough amino acids available, repair is incomplete and adaptation is blunted. This is why recovery often fails quietly when protein intake is inadequate. People usually attribute poor recovery to training volume, age, sleep quality, or stress. Those factors absolutely matter. But protein shortfalls are one of the most common and least recognized causes of stalled progress, lingering fatigue, and chronic soreness. When the body does not have enough amino acids available after training, it prioritizes basic repair over improvement. Damage is patched just enough to maintain function, but no additional capacity is built. Over time, this creates the feeling of working hard without moving forward. Strength plateaus. Soreness lasts longer than expected. Fatigue accumulates across sessions. Workouts feel harder but produce fewer results. Protein intake does not need to be perfect to support recovery, but it does need to be sufficient. After training, muscle tissue enters a period of heightened sensitivity to amino acids. Providing protein during this period helps shift the balance from breakdown toward synthesis. This does not mean there is a narrow, fragile, anabolic window that must be hit with precision. It means that protein availability around training improves the likelihood that recovery leads to adaptation instead of stagnation. Total daily protein intake still matters most. Recovery is not confined to the hour after a workout. Muscle repair continues for many hours and often for days following a hard training session. Consistent protein intake across the day supports this extended recovery process far more effectively than a single post-workout meal. This is why people who train hard but eat low protein often feel like they are constantly behind. They are always repairing yesterday's damage instead of adapting to it. Another common mistake is underestimating how much protein recovery actually requires. Training increases protein turnover. Muscle proteins are broken down and rebuilt at a faster rate. That increased turnover raises protein needs above sedentary levels. Applying sedentary protein recommendations to people who train regularly leads to predictable recovery problems. The body is doing more work. It needs more material. If intake does not increase, recovery capacity declines. Energy availability is just as important. Protein cannot do its job effectively if total calories are too low. When energy intake is insufficient, amino acids are diverted away from repair and toward energy production. Muscle tissue becomes a fuel source instead of a construction site. This is why recovery often collapses during aggressive dieting, even when protein intake is relatively high. Protein helps, but it cannot fully override a prolonged energy deficit. This also explains why people feel weaker, more sore, and less resilient when they train hard while eating very little. The body is forced to choose survival over adaptation. The type of training matters as well. Resistance training produces a strong signal for muscle protein synthesis because it places high mechanical tension on muscle fibers. Endurance training produces a different stimulus that emphasizes energy systems rather than tissue growth. Protein supports recovery from both types of training, but its role is most visible when resistance training is involved. Muscle tissue responds directly to protein availability when repairing damage caused by mechanical load. This is why lifting weights without adequate protein produces poor returns, even if effort and consistency are high. Another misconception is that recovery is mainly about soreness. Soreness is an unreliable indicator. You can recover poorly without feeling sore, and you can feel sore while still adapting well. Soreness reflects inflammation and novelty more than readiness. More meaningful indicators of recovery include performance trends, energy levels, sleep quality, and how quickly you feel ready to train again. When protein intake is adequate, these indicators improve. Training sessions feel repeatable. Strength is more stable from workout to workout. Fatigue clears more predictably. Rest days feel sufficient rather than barely adequate. When protein intake is inadequate, recovery debt accumulates. Sessions feel harder. Motivation drops. Rest never feels like enough. Progress stalls. People often respond by modifying their training instead of their nutrition. They reduce volume, avoid intensity, or train around fatigue instead of addressing the underlying cause. Often, the simplest fix is increasing protein intake and ensuring total energy is sufficient to support training. Recovery also changes with age. As anabolic sensitivity declines, muscle tissue becomes less responsive to the same protein stimulus that once worked easily. Older adults often require a stronger amino acid signal to achieve the same repair response. This makes protein intake after training more important, not less, as people age. Skipping protein becomes more costly. Small shortfalls matter more. Recovery windows lengthen. This is why many people feel like they don't bounce back the way they used to. It is not just age. It is often intake failing to keep pace with demand. The practical takeaway is straightforward. Training creates damage. Protein supplies the materials to repair that damage. Adequate energy allows repair to become adaptation. Miss any of those pieces, and recovery fails quietly. Recovery is not about hacks, supplements, or perfect timing tricks. It is about meeting basic physiological needs consistently. Eat enough protein. Eat enough total calories to support training. Coronally distributed protein across the day. Do not treat recovery as optional. The workout is the signal. Recovery is the response. If recovery is poor, the training does not matter. In the next episode, we'll look at why strength declines faster than endurance, and why protein and resistance training are the only reliable ways to slow that process. This is Protein Truth.